Hi, welcome to my latest video. Today I'm finally going to be filming part 6 of my Webasto diesel fired heater series. This is the Webasto and I fitted that to the car in May 2023. Okay, so May last year. It is now December 24. It's the 27th of December today and it is in between Christmas and New Year. I've taken a few days off work and I've made it my mission to get this working this Christmas. No more delays, no more umming and ahhing and doing other things with the car. This is the priority. I want my car to be toasty warm in the morning. That's what this is for. It will heat up the water in the engine and in the heater inside the car before the engine started. So you're getting into a car on a cold, frosty morning that is pre-warmed. It's as if the car's already been driven around the block. So you can get in, the car starts nice and easily, the engine block's already warm, the heater's already blowing warm air, and it's just fantastic. They fitted this to the cold climate Freelander 2, so those sold in Poland, Russia, places like that. It was actually fitted over here, up inside the wheel arch, okay? Now, I chose not to put mine there. I've decided to put it here. There is a big sort of void in that area because the washer tank is on the other side, but there's nothing here. And the Freelander 1 and a few other Land Rover models also have it here. I've seen a couple of Freelander 2s with it fitted here as well, okay? And it seems to work nicely. You've got the fuel lines, you've got the heater hoses coming out of the thermostat. The exhaust can kind of come down here, and the electronics, I haven't totally figured out what I'm going to do with those, but they'll probably be put up here, sort of in the dry behind the battery. Okay, so they can easily be plumbed down. The fuel lines can sort of be run down through the pump, and I've got a fuel filter and a non-return valve. Here's the water pump. That's going to be mounted here on a 3D printed bracket. So today, what I'm going to be doing, my aim for today, is to sort of plumb in the pipes, the hoses, actually run everything up through into the engine bay. Okay, so air, fuel, exhaust goes down actually, but get that fitted, get the water hoses plumbed in so that all the pipes and hoses are sort of exposed into the engine bay, and then one by one I can connect them up, and I haven't got to remove the front off the car again then, you see, because it's a bit of a job. I mean, it didn't take me that long to remove the front off the car this morning. I've done videos previously showing how to do that, so if you need to remove your front bumper, there are videos that I've done showing that, and Scott and Alana recently did a video on how to remove the bumper as well. Okay, the important things to know with this bumper, okay, so first of all, there are a couple of bolts that are sort of like up in here, which are really difficult to get at, and you have to use sort of extension bars with universal joints. I don't actually bother refitting those. They're a pain to remove, and you don't really need them. There's another bolt here, and there's another bolt here, and that other one, the awkward one, you can run without it. It doesn't. There's no sort of safety implications. The front end is not quite as sort of bolted down as quite as tightly, but I found that the gap on the bodywork was fine. I haven't actually run with those bolts in place for a few years and no issues at all. So if it's your first time removing the front, then take those bolts out and throw them away. Okay. Other things, washer fluid hose, you have to disconnect the headlight washers and sort of double the hose back on itself. And then there is this plug over here, which is a complete pain, but you have to slide that red thing back and then press there, and then somehow with 3 hands kind of pull the plug apart. Okay, it's tricky the first time you do it, and then when you kind of know how to do it. It took me probably about 15 minutes to remove the front this morning. Okay, and that included dealing with the winch. I've got to take the fair leads off, take the hook off, take the spats off underneath, headlights out, everything, headlight guards, the whole lot. Probably about 15, maybe 20 minutes to remove it. Okay, so that's now off the car, so I can get at the Webasto. When I fitted this on this big metal bracket in May last year, I thought I'd just put some tape over the water pipes and the exhaust hole there just to sort of protect them. I didn't actually do anything with the electrical sockets on there. Hopefully they're okay and they're not sort of got a load of dirt inside them or corroded connections or anything like that. But what I want to do is connect this up to the water system and probably just connect it to a little tiny, I've got a little, almost like it's like a little fuel tank from a go-kart or petrol strimmer or something like that, and I'm just going to kind of put that here maybe temporarily just so that I can run the thing, get it started, and just want to run it up, make sure it still works, and then I can start thinking about properly connecting in the fuel system and building all of the electronic controllers, because the electronics is half the job really. I've got to have a control box somewhere with all the connections. That's got to have the receiver for the remote control, and then I'd really like a sort of like a display, so I might actually do the control box in two parts. One is the sort of bit hidden away here, and then there's maybe a cable through the bulkhead to a sort of LED readout which shows the temperatures, the voltage and things like that. And eventually I will need to fit a second battery, okay, because this draws a lot of current. So if I'm not careful, I'll end up flattening the battery running this, and then I'll hop in the pre-warmed car and I won't have any power left in the battery to actually start the engine. Okay, so the thinking there is that if I fit a second battery in the boot and run a cable through, I can then have one of those sort of intelligent charging things that people use for caravans and things like that. So they're sort of it's like a kind of a relay thing that charges the second battery when this engine is running and this battery is charged. It then charges up the second battery, but then when you use the second battery, it doesn't flatten the main battery, okay? So this would basically run the second battery sort of down, and if the voltage gets too low, it will just shut off, okay? So the important thing there is that it preserves the charge in the main battery to allow me to actually start the car, okay? So worst case, this doesn't run for long enough, it doesn't heat the car up, but I can still actually start it as normal. I changed the glow plugs last winter, so I know that the car will start in cold weather, but this is not essential for starting in cold weather, but it's a comfort thing. It's a luxury thing. I would really like to be able to warm my car up from inside the house rather than going outside and starting it and then leaving the engine running for 10 minutes to kind of warm the vehicle up on a cold morning. There are security implications with doing that. Quite a few cars get stolen by people sort of leave them running with the keys in, and someone just comes along and drives it away. And also, it does make a bit of noise. I mean, this is noisy when it runs, but I do have a little silencer for the exhaust. Okay, so I don't think it will be as noisy as actually running the main engine. All right, so the idea is to sort of heat the car up with that, and then hop in and go. You see. So none of this sort of going out trying to start it and leave it running. Okay, right, that's where we are. I'm not going to get the whiteboard out and draw any diagrams. I'll do that in the next video. So this video is going to be plumbing in. The next video will be looking at the control module, and I don't know if there'll be another one after that. I'll just keep going until this is all working. Probably get the control box made next video, and then finishing touches in part 8 probably. It'll probably be 8 parts in total. I've done 5 already. The first 4 were kind of really looking at the prototyping. The last one was fitted this, part 5. Part 6 now, part 7 for the electrics, and then part 8 will be kind of finishing touches, getting the fuel connected in properly and the extra battery and things like that. Right, that's enough introduction. I'm going to dig out the brackets that I've made for the water pump and I'm going to get lots of hose out. I've got lots of blue silicone hose, like this sort of blue silicone hose, 19mm diameter I think it is for this. I think this is about 20, but it's sort of good to fit a slightly smaller, 1mm smaller hose, just so you get a nice tight fit on the hose sort of union things. So I'll get that sorted out, and I'm going to start assembling the water pump and getting that plumbed in. Okay, so what I've done is taken off the insulation tape that I'd put around the two hose connections for the water, and I've also uncovered the exhaust pipe there, and I've emptied out my big bag of parts onto my table here, and I'm just going to talk quickly through a few of these bits. So I've got loads and loads of sort of bits of 19mm hose and hose joiners, okay, various angle corners and straight connectors. We've got a kind of a 180 degree bend there. That will be useful for sort of turning the heater hose round to come to the front, okay. So I'll be looking more at how to actually connect into the heater hoses probably in the next video, but I just thought I'd get these bits ready here. We've got various other things over here, some sort of protective sleeving. There is the heater hose, well, a heater hose, a second-hand one. So that's sort of kind of how it connects onto the thermostat. So what I need to do is turn that round and then sort of disconnect that so that I have two hoses pointing forwards, and that'll go down to the Webasto and then back into the heater as normal. That's the plan there. There's the exhaust silencer plus the stainless exhaust pipe. I found two more fuel pumps, okay, so as well as the two pumps here. So this is a cheap sort of Chinese one, and this is a genuine one. That's the one I think I used on the breadboard. I think I started off on that one and then switched to this one. It's old, but it works. And I've got another one here. Okay, so there's a DP40. It's actually got the Webasto sticker on it, so that is a genuine DP40 pump. Okay, I think there is also a DP38 or 36, something like that, which is lower sort of flow rate, same kind of connections and size. I don't know if that's a DP40, I'm not sure, but this really is the one that we need. And what have we got here? Another cheapy one. I'm actually wondering if I've got a feeling that this one here isn't actually the cheapy one. This is actually a brand new Webasto. It hasn't got a Webasto sticker on, but it's a brand new DP40. Okay, and it actually comes with a plug and some wire, which is good. This, yeah, what have we got here? Yeah, well, yeah, it came from Germany, this one, and it was, I seem to remember it being very expensive, okay, so it was about 70 something pounds. I don't know what this is, MTM. Yeah, that's an address, isn't it, I think. So, yeah, I think it says original fuel pump on there. Not sure if it's a sort of genuine one, but it's probably better quality than the cheapy kind of imitation one, which I think this is here. So these are about 20-30 quid on eBay. Second-hand genuines are probably 40 to 50, and then the brand new, yeah, it was about 75 pounds, I think. Had to be imported in from Europe. Okay, so various other things here. We've got some fuel hose there. Don't know if I'll need that because I've already got some fuel hose here, which I just put a kind of a little screw in the end to stop any dirt getting in there. Fuel tanks. Okay, so I will eventually connect into the main engine diesel feed, but I think to start with I'll probably use a little temporary tank. This is the one I used, or it's the same as the one I used on the breadboard, but I think it's just too big. I just don't know where it can go. There's nowhere really for it to go. Okay, that's I think a 2.5 litre tank. This is about a 1 litre. This is kind of like the sort of thing you'd have on petrol strimmer or a go-kart or something like that. So just to get started, this will do. Okay, I can probably sort of mount that kind of here. I don't really want tanks of diesel up the front of the car. Okay, so if there's ever an accident, then yeah, that's going to cause a fire hazard. But just to start with, just to allow me to test this thing, I'd rather not be connecting into the main diesel feed if I can help it. Not just yet, okay, because I have heard stories of sort of air being drawn up through the Webasto or dirt or something like that. And yeah, these old rusty old fuel pumps, they might have all sorts of grot inside them. I don't really want any of that going up into the high pressure pump for the engine. Okay, so I've heard stories of people having problems. They sort of drive 5 miles down the road and then the car cuts out because air has been pulled the wrong way up the Webasto fuel hose. Okay, so I've got a one-way valve that I can put on it, and I've also got a filter as well, quite a nice sort of glass-bodied filter. I don't know where that is. I think it's probably inside somewhere, but cleanliness is absolutely essential with anything to do with the fuel. Okay, so we don't want any dirt getting into the engine, we don't want any dirt getting into the Webasto. It's all got to be kept spotlessly clean. So filters, even if it's already been filtered, you see, so that's the fuel filter for the engine, and then if I do T-piece off that, I will put it through probably a shut-off tap for safety, and a one-way valve, and another little fuel filter, okay, just for good measure, just so that nothing gets to the Webasto, and more importantly, nothing gets drawn back up, okay, you see. So if I just relied on this filter, and the Webasto had some dirt in it, which ended up going up the fuel line, that would end up in the high pressure pump with potentially disastrous consequences for the injectors and whatever else. Okay, so just got to think carefully about fueling. To start with, I think a little separate tank would be a good idea. Okay, just to allow me to get used to the thing and make sure it works properly and everything else. And then when it's all working nicely, I can then think about plumbing it into the main fuel lines. The other advantage of having a little separate tank is I can add sort of some additive, injector cleaner. I don't think it has an injector in it. I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, I don't actually know what goes on inside there. I know it has like a glow plug, and the fuel sort of kind of like gets sort of like sprayed in, but not kind of like injected at high pressure. There's no kind of high pressure pump for this, but it sort of kind of goes into some sort of gauze thing, I think, which sort of then glows and burns, and then it sort of, that's what makes the heat. Okay, to actually heat the thing up. And there's a fan inside it, so it blows the air. So it's not like a jet engine. It sounds a bit like a jet engine, but it's not like a jet engine where it runs itself with turbines and things. It's not like that at all. It has a fan that blows the air through. The fuel is pumped in. To start with, there's a glow plug that heats it up. Once it gets hot, it continues to burn and make its own heat. Okay, so the glow plug then goes off after a couple of minutes. The current drops off. It's probably about 15 amps to start with. It drops off to about 4 amps, and the thing will just sort of run. I mean, this won't really actually take much electricity. It's just the fan in there, really. But there is the water pump as well, which I don't know how much current these draw, probably 5 amps, something like that. So I do need to think about the current rating, the wires, the control box. I need some extra fuses, really. All of these things need fusing. And then eventually I will connect up to a second battery, probably in the boot, because there's just no room for it up the front. I could get one of those little tiny motorcycle batteries somewhere up under the scuttle, but seeing as I've got a large leisure battery which I use with my solar panel for camping to run the cool boxes, I may as well use that, really, and just have that as the second battery. Okay, and then run a cable carefully through the car to this thing here, which is my sort of smart battery isolator thing. Okay, so that's the thing that controls which battery gets charged when, and more importantly, which battery gets discharged when. Okay, so this is the 3D printed clamp that I've made for the water pump. Okay, and this here is a sort of shelf brackety thing that will fit quite nicely onto there. This is a sort of metal bracket, and it's a bit flimsy. It's perfectly fine for a water pump on it, but you couldn't bolt the Webasto to that. It's just not strong enough. That is really supporting the front edge of the wing. Okay, there's a wing support. It's nothing to do with the inner wheel arches. Okay, so inner wheel arch liner. I thought at first that bolted to this, but it doesn't. Okay, it's a wing support. Okay, that will go there. That's the plug for the front. We've got the other plug for the headlights. That one there with the pump clamp on it there. And what that will do is it will position the pump kind of like so, around about there. Okay, I'll bolt it all together in a moment, we'll see it. But this pump actually has an arrow. You can just see there's an arrow. So that is the output. And on the Webasto there are also arrows. Okay, so that is the input and that is the output. So I either pump water in or I draw water out. That needs to sort of sit like so. So what I'm going to do is use it to force water in, and then the output hose will kind of come up with a short bit of blue silicone, maybe an elbow or something like that, kind of like so, and that'll scoot across the top of here. I mean, this all gets very hot, but I'm not sure how hot. And don't forget, it's got water inside it, you see, so there's big water circulating around, and that water is only going to get up to about 80 degrees. And when it reaches 80 degrees, the Webasto turns off and stops heating. Okay, so this is not going to get to like 500 degrees or anything. So silicone hose should be absolutely fine. So that will kind of go across the top there. And, you know, I mean, if this does get hot, it's got this big metal bracket acting as a heat sink there. There is a gap, there's a clearance gap there between there, and there's also clearance between the front bumper there. So the thing is just kind of really just sat there on a big, hefty, solid, heavy metal bracket. Yes, it's aluminium, not steel, but it's still got sort of heat sinking capability. There are 3 bolts into that. The heat will sort of dissipate out, okay, and of course the water is there to take the heat away. That's the whole idea behind it. So what I need to do now is dig out some Jubilee clips, stainless Jubilee clips, cut some lengths of hose, and we're going to take that one up and across, either with the elbow hose or, yeah, I think those are too big, aren't they? Those are too big, actually. I can't really cut those down because they've got the nice ends on them. Yeah, so that's too big. So it will need to be that one, and then a short straight up from here, up into the pump, and then the fun really starts, because I need to sort of get the hoses into the engine bay somehow. So I could go down there, but that's going to be tricky then, because I've got to sort of take them over here and then sort of down, and there is a fairly big hole there, but I'm going to have wiring and all sorts of other stuff here, you see. So I think what might be better is to take them down here into this hole here, and then there's a sort of bit of plastic there which was sticking out from the radiator. It doesn't serve any purpose. I can probably cut it off, but the hose, if I use these, then I can do it like that. You see, and the beauty of this is metal, so it's not going to kind of slice through on the bodywork. Of course, I will secure it so it's not rattling around like that, but they can sit quite nicely there. And I've designed some little kind of 3D printed sort of hose clamp type things like this, which can just bolt wherever necessary, really, to kind of take those 2 hoses round. And what I want to do today is to get it to the point where I've got some pipes sticking up in here, sort of, kind of, it's a bit difficult to see, and It'll probably be easier in a bit if I remove this air filter box so you can see. But if I put a pipe through the hole, you can see it there. You see, so I want that kind of like, well, probably like that actually coming upwards, but maybe out that way, and that will allow me to then take the two hoses up. I really need to take them along and then that way, sort of close to the thermostat housing. I can probably even cable tie them to the existing radiator hose, which is, well, there's that one and there's another one over there lower down. The reason I don't want to take them over underneath here is because there's the gear linkages. Okay, so manual gearbox has got the sort of levers on top of the gearbox. Can't really, yeah, you can just see them in there. Okay, so let's just see if I can zoom that a little bit. Okay, yeah, you can see all that gubbins there, which is kind of gear change stuff. All right, so I don't want hoses getting anywhere near those levers. They won't get on with each other, okay, if they're too close together. So that's the idea, and then we take the pipe then with that and the heater hose, which currently will be like so. Okay, so going into the thermostat housing down there. So I will disconnect this and attach that to this piece here. I don't think I can just rotate that because there is actually a little tiny lug inside there, you can just see, and that stops the thing rotating. So I just don't think it can flip round. So the easier alternative way to do it is we just leave it where it is, disconnect the hose, undo the clamp, take the hose off, attach this hose, send it round. So we've got that coming this way, and then this one will be connected up to a straight joiner. Okay, and then I've got my two blue silicone hoses coming towards the front of the car, and they will come down, and over to here. That's the plan. Okay, that's the water. There is a lot else to think about. The exhaust, I need to kind of think about where that comes down. Does it just literally point down under the car? Where's the silencer going to go? Fueling, I'll connect up to a temporary tank for now. Then in the next video I need to look at the electronics and the control. Okay, so how to actually turn this thing on, because you can't just give it 12 volts. The Thermotop C, I think you can just flick a switch and it powers up, but this one has to be sent a command on the W bus. Okay, so it's data sort of protocol. So we have a little kind of controller which receives the remote control signal and then sends a command to this to start and stop. Not that straightforward to get it working, but I did succeed in powering it up on the breadboard, on the wooden board, and it worked. So it is possible. Okay, so lots to do, and it is now 3 o'clock and it'll be dark in an hour. So I will do a bit more today and then I'll just carry on with this tomorrow morning, I think. Okay, quick update for you. I'm starting to lose the light out here a bit now. I've had to turn my little spotlighty thing on so I can see what I'm filming, and you guys can see what I'm fitting to the car. This is a 3D printed bracket. Okay, so we've got a couple of M5 Allen head bolts up there going through to some nuts and washers behind. They're all stainless steel, and then we've got this here and 4 bolts going up into the 4 holes on the pump clamp, okay, which I've put onto the pump. The reason why I've not put that on first, because it would have been a bit easier, especially with these bolts here, because I've got not much room there to get an Allen key or anything in. But if I put that on there, then it's going to be difficult to get that hose in. So I almost need to sort of cut the hose and sort of get that push down on the hose and then tighten the bolts up, okay? Otherwise I'm going to have to try and sort of kink the hose kind of in if the pump is already fitted in. Okay, so I'm hoping that I can get an Allen key or something in there to do up those. It's not enough room actually to go from the top. Shame actually, but it's just the way the design ended up. Actually, it would have been easier to screw downwards with nuts underneath, but it doesn't matter. I just need to be very careful, of course, that the heads of these bolts here don't damage the hose that's going across here. Okay, so this elbow will be sort of like so, but these bolts will obviously be done up. Okay, so the head will be there, so it should be okay. There's a sort of a good 15 mil or so underneath that. Okay, so I don't think the bolt heads are going to cause an issue. If it looks like they might go anywhere near the hose, then I'll change these bolts for sort of dome headed ones rather than Allen head. Okay, but if I can cut that hose down a bit so that tucks in nice and tightly across the top of the heater, I can't really do it any other way, really. There's no point in bringing it forwards or going this way. It's still going to be near these bolts, but I'm sure it'll be fine. The really important thing is that the plumbing, the water plumbing and the fuel, but the water mainly, doesn't spring a leak. Okay, because otherwise I'm going to be losing coolant out of here. I probably won't even notice, and then the next thing I know, the engine's going to be overheating. Okay, so whatever goes on here with coolant, all these joints and pumps and clamps and whatever else have all got to be nicely sealed and nice and watertight and able to take the pressure as well, because the cooling system obviously sort of pressurizes a bit when it gets hot. Okay, so yeah, it'll be a bit of a test, I think, to start with. I'll probably drive around with a large sort of jerry can full of water or a big bottle of water in the boot, just in case something does happen, and I'd start losing coolant. That would be a disaster, especially on a long journey. So, right, we've got some little helpers out here. Pit Lane Kitty's out here, and Pit Lane Peanut. Peanut, are you going to help me? He's gone underneath to check the plumbing. Kitty, what are you up to? Scavenging for food, probably. Come on, kits, come and help. They don't like this weather. In the summer, they'd be out here lounging around. Peanut's not our cat, he belongs to the neighbour. But he's Kitty's little friend. And the two of them get on very well. Here he is. He's the only cat in the neighbourhood that Kitty actually likes. She attacks all the other ones. So hopefully they're not going to get in the way of what I'm doing here. Okay, so I've got to get that pump on, get that connected up. I've got about probably half an hour to an hour, and then it's going to be dark. I don't really want to be out here in the dark. It's going to get pretty cold tonight. So I need to get this done, get these hoses in, get that pump in, and that will be it for today, and then I'll carry on tomorrow. Okay, so here we are the next day. Luckily it's fairly dry again today. It's just a bit grey, but it's not raining, it's not windy, which is good. And I'm going to carry on with this. Now, I did film a sort of clip right at the end of yesterday showing where I'd got to, but the sound went a bit wrong on it. So I'm just doing that update now. So pump is in, water pump's there, 3D printed clamp and bracket, stainless steel bolts, stainless steel clamps on the hoses. This is the output, this is the input. So today I'm going to extend those down through that hole there and up to the thermostat housing. Okay, now I don't know if I'll actually connect into the thermostat today. I'll see how I get on. I want to sort of flush the whole system through with a garden hose or something before I actually connect it into the real engine coolant circuit, okay, just in case there's debris and dust and dead insects or whatever inside there. Who knows what's inside that Webasto. It's been sat there sort of bolted to the car, not plumbed in for quite a while, nearly 2 years. So I'm going to flush all that through before the front end goes back on today. I want to look at the exhaust as well. Air duct is connected and fuel line is connected, but I do need to have a think about the electrics. Now, I will probably end up having to take the front end off again when I wire everything up. Okay, so if I don't get round to actually putting any plugs on here today, I really need to clean up these sockets here, okay, because I think what I'll do is get a cotton bud with a bit of WD-40 or something and just clean the pins, because they're probably pretty grimy in there. So get that ready and may get the coolant connected up today. I'd also like to try and get the little fuel tank connected with the fuel pump and the fuel filter. Really just do as much as I can today and then get the front end back on, take the car down off the ramps, at least it's sort of drivable then, and then all the remaining work will be done sort of in the engine bay and fitting the electronics sort of control box and monitoring display unit and all the other things. But I don't really have to take the front end off for that, possibly just to deal with the wiring. And also, who's to say that this still works? You see, this did work years ago, but there's a high chance I might connect all this up and it doesn't work, and I have to remove it and maybe change it for another one, or take it apart and fix it, whatever, I don't know. So there's a high chance that the front end will have to come off again, but I'll do that sort of later in the week. I need to drive the car in 2 days, because I've got a long journey to do, so I'll probably hold off connecting up the coolant system until after that long journey's done. I'd hate to be halfway through a long journey and then find I've got a coolant leak. I'd rather be sort of close to home if that's going to happen. Yeah, so that's sort of where I got to yesterday. I'm going to carry on now and continue with the coolant hoses. Okay, so the challenge that I've got at the moment is that if I put that like so, these levels are not really kind of lining up. Okay, I don't really want to sort of bend that down too much across the top of the heater. So what I could do, because I've got this sort of 3D printed kind of pipe clampy thing, I'll redesign this actually, because the pipes are too close together I think there, but that would go something like so. But I was thinking I could actually turn that slightly, and that actually helps on the inside as well, because you can just about see there, that actually then would sort of point that more towards the thermostat housing over there. Okay, originally I was going to bring them straight up and then use a series of elbows to sort of get it across. That can't, I've got to get 2 pipes through here. This will be tricky to do with one hand. I really need to get the tripod out. But that will go like so. And that's got to connect up to this pump inlet and that pipe there. So I really want to sort of angle that a bit. Something like that, and then join them up with some, probably just a short lengths of straight hose. This hose is quite flexible. Okay, so I think it would be better to sort of do that than to kind of try and take it down, sort of lower down. That's just not going to join up properly. I do have one of these 45-degree bends. I could order another one of them. I've got loads of 90s. I don't know why I've got so many 90s and then a 45. It's probably because I was just expecting to take lots of 90-degree bends in the engine bay, which I might still do, but really the fewer joints on the hoses the better, because more joints means more chance of something leaking. So this one, I'll take those out. That one there kind of brings the pipe out like that, which then it could almost follow that radiator hose over to the thermostat housing. I could even cable tie the Webasto pipes to that, and that could be brought up. Now this one actually is sort of even longer than the 90s, you see. Doesn't leave much room here. I could of course do a 45 and a 90, that's an option. I think the 90s will be best for now. Okay, so I need to redesign this clampy thing there. So it was just something that I 3D printed there with 2 bolt holes. I'll redesign it with 1 bolt hole in the middle, and that way it can swivel slightly. And then I think if we take that coming sort of upwards slightly, that helps in the engine bay, because then the pipe is not hard against the kind of side of the engine bay. It's out slightly where I can actually get to it and get a hose on it, and that will be held securely in place. And then I can probably do something maybe from that sort of this bit here, which is the well, it's part of the support for the airbox, but that grommetty thing's not used, so I could probably repurpose a little bracket off that to kind of hold that securely on the inside of the engine bay. Okay, right, I'm going to cut some hose, and I'm going to sort of see if that'll work before I go to the trouble of redesigning and reprinting the sort of mounting bracket. Once I've got the pipes in the right place, I'll know what shape and size the bracket needs to be to mount them. But then I can just drill through here and just stick a bolt through there. Well, that's actually going to go inside the kind of chassis type thing. Might have to even tap it maybe and just thread in. Can't really use a self-tapping screw into that because it's thick steel, so I might have to actually get my tap and die set and tap a thread into here. I don't want to use any of these bolts because those are sort of structural really. That's what secures the winch mount in place, the winch tray. So something like this just needs a little screw or something just to kind of hold that there. It is important that it's reasonably secure because I don't want these rattling around and wearing through. This is only thin aluminium, so if that was cutting against the steel, I think the steel would win. So right, let's get some hose cut, get a few more Jubilee clips on and just try and extend this over there, and then think about how I'm going to secure it in place. Okay, quick update. So this is all hosed up now, Jubilee clips. These are going round there. I still need to 3D print the mount there, but that will sort of secure that. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, it's a bit dark under there, but that will sort of hold that kind of securely there. And then we've got all of this here. That's all nice. I need to drill a hole here for that little clamp for the air hose. I tried to get a Jubilee clip on the other end of this black flexible duct for the air hose, but it just wouldn't fit in properly. There just wasn't enough room, kind of, if I point down here where that goes in. Let's sort of zoom that a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. So this black flexible duct here actually goes about almost an inch over a sort of bit of pipe that's sort of hidden from view. It's almost like a sort of stub of pipe that's sort of below the surface of the back of the Webasto. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere. My only worry is that if I go wading, that water could get in. But the problem is there's just not enough room around it to put a Jubilee clip on it. So I'm not totally sure what I do there. Maybe a bit of sealant or something on it. I'm not sure. It'll just have to kind of do for now. Okay, that's on there. It's a pretty tight fit, and then I'll just secure that kind of like so on this sort of rubber lined P-clip here, and that holds that in place. Now you might be wondering, I'll just mention this actually, you're probably wondering why I'm not taking these pipes up through here, okay, where there is quite a bit of a hole up through there. The reason for that is the airbox hose will come out. Okay, so I've got rid of that sort of horrible cardboard excuse for an air duct that Land Rover fit. Got rid of that ages ago, years ago, and then I did design a sort of a plate there with a kind of hose connection on it. I've actually got it somewhere in here. Let's see if I can find it. Where is it? It's probably in this bag of bits here. Here it is. Okay, so that airbox adapter there, which way round does it go? I think it's like that. Okay, so I was selling these on my website. It's not 3D printed, it's a polyurethane cast item from a 3D printed mould, just for sort of strength and temperature resistance, but I may 3D print some more in solid ABS. They might be strong enough, but the problem is you can see the lines there. If you put any kind of force on that, it can break it off, and that's why I ended up casting it. Okay, so that adapter will kind of fit on there, and then this pipe will go through this hole here, just about enough room. It's an ultra tight fit. That's why I don't want to run any water pipes through there, because I've got the air. I've also am going to have to run the cabling for the electrics somehow down through there, and it doesn't leave much room for a 60mm diameter hose. I mean, it will just about fit, really, really tight fit. And then I will be eventually taking that round and down here, and one day I hope to get my snorkel project done, but that's on the list of about 1,000 projects at the moment. So this one's been going on, I think, the longest, probably longer than the snorkel project, and I've just got to get it done. And then when this is done, there's other things to do. I've got to do the Haldex, I've got to do the ladder, I want to do an EGR delete, and a whole load of other projects need doing. Okay, so one day I will get round to doing the snorkel, but yeah, it's kind of on hold for now. So right, what's next? Okay, so that's all done. These pipes now sort of come up here. Let me sort of wiggle them around so you can kind of see them. There they are. Okay, so they're quite nicely ready for action in the engine bay there. Okay, and then I can kind of connect up and sort of hose across to the thermostat housing down there. Do that probably tomorrow in the engine bay, or next, what day is it today? It's Saturday today, so later in the week, when I've finished my long journey that I'm doing and back home, then I'll connect that up. Okay, the weather forecast, interestingly, is cold. It's going to get colder in about a week's time, possible snow. So that's my target, is to get all this working before the cold weather hits. Okay, right, what is next? Exhaust. I need to think about the exhaust. So what I'm trying to do today is to do all the things sort of in this area so the front end can go back on, and then the rest of it is in the engine bay. Now the exhaust has a silencer. Okay, I feel that I ought to fit this, just to keep my neighbours happy. 6 o'clock in the morning, cold, quiet, frosty winter morning. If I don't have this fitted, yeah, it will be like a small jet engine kind of taking off. So I have a bit of a challenge here, because I just don't know where that's really going to go. I guess it could sort of go somewhere. Can't really go here. Yeah, you see, I've got to keep clearance either end. I mean, what about if that went like that? I mean, I want to be ducting the exhaust gases out down here somewhere. You know, I don't really want them going up. They've got to kind of come out the bottom of the car, and they're going to be hot, okay, so I need to keep them well away from any sort of plastic bodywork, wheel arch liners, tyres, intercooler ends, etc. So yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one, really. I think looking at the front end here, I would really like it to sort of come out sort of down here somewhere, and then put like a nice sort of heat-proof stainless surround around it, which I have seen on eBay. You can get a kind of circular heat shield thing. Okay, and it also kind of keeps it a little bit out of sight then. You know, I don't really want it kind of sticking out kind of here or anything like that. It's when it runs, it's going to make quite a lot of smoke and fumes, and I'd rather they just sort of disappeared under the car rather than sort of shooting forwards. Yeah, I might end up parked somewhere where that could then cause a problem, pointing at a neighbour's house or another car or someone else. Okay, so I just they've got to kind of go under the car. So how on earth do I get things down underneath? I don't really want to make any more holes in my sump guard. Okay, so that's kind of covering most of this area, and I think really the only option is to direct it down and out here, and then it's going to be then tricky to make the hole in the right place. The silencer, as well as quietening things down, would also help to reduce the temperature of the gases, I think, certainly to start with anyway. Okay, so that inside there has just got sort of perforated tube. I can just see that just inside the thing there. It's kind of like, yeah, it probably just goes through some wadding or something inside there. So where could this go? It's probably got to go somewhere like this. I think that's about the only place it can go. It can't go here, there's not enough room. It's going to have to go, I think, somewhere like so. Okay, which means I've then got to take the pipe up and down, and then that would come down and out. Okay. Now I've only got one of these. That's got a sort of an end on it, which I think is meant to be like the end that sticks out into the outside air, and that end on it is really just to protect fingers and things against the sharp edge. I mean, this stuff is stainless steel, and it's quite rigid, and it has a awful razor sharp edge on it. So yeah, I mean, this is almost the right shape already. If you look at that, if that was on there, let's just stick that on there. Right, there we go. Yeah, you see, and that could come up. There should be some space here, I think, because that's going to be in that area there below the headlight. Just got to remember the fog light. So that is, yeah, it's going to be here really, I think, and the fog light is about 8 centimetres below the bottom of the headlight. So the fog light is going to be here. So whatever I do with the silencer needs to be over here. I think that's going to have to kind of go like that, and then if I cut this and then stick a bit at the bottom, that can then point out through the bottom. Yeah, I mean, what I might do is get it running without the silencer and just see how noisy it is. When I ran up the prototype, it was very noisy. So yeah, it would be good just to see if it could run without the silencer, just to see how noisy it is, and then add that on if required. Originally I was going to try and fit it sort of here, so that this would then come out up over down through the silencer and then sort of down and out on that sort of plasticky area on the other side, of course, and kind of come out down here. But then I thought about this. Wouldn't it be better if that was mounted like that underneath? The duct can then come out of there and into the silencer, and then the silencer can then go along, and it could actually just vent out through one of these holes. It can just be sort of positioned so that it's just out of sight, and the gas goes out through probably this hole here. Okay, so that way it's not near any plastic at all. It'll come down here. All of this is metal. There's plenty of space here, and what I could do is, because I don't actually know if the silencer is really required, is I can actually just fit that sort of like that, kind of like so, clamp that, and that can just sort of duct out through the sump guard, and that way it's not near any plastic at all, everything's metal, and if I need to add the silencer in later, that's really easy to add. It's just a case of drilling a hole here, putting a sort of aluminium spacer standoff there. I could possibly even use one of these bolts here, but just mount that like so on a bolt, just drill a hole up through here. That would sit there really nicely. That way, that's well away from the fog light, which is sort of pretty much where those 3 bolts are to mount the Webasto to the bracket. And it just, I think, just keeps everything nice and neat and tidy. And any steam would then vent out, or fumes, smoke, whatever it is that's coming out, will just vent out through the sump guard and can be sort of directed downwards, sort of down through one of these holes. So the idea is that, just position that like that, is that that would kind of sit like so, and would just possibly poke through slightly, but I don't think it needs to. It can just sit there and just sort of blast out through that hole, and you won't even see it from the front of the car. All you'll see is fumes kind of coming downwards out of the sump guard, which is going to look a bit strange, but they've got to come out somewhere. And I'd rather do that than have to try and take it out through this plastic, which is just going to melt as soon as it gets hot. Okay, so I don't want it anywhere near the tyres. Don't really want it coming out the side, because if there was another vehicle parked here, that could cause a problem. It's got to go downwards, and it's got to go downwards sort of in this area here, really, where it's all metal, not through here. So kind of in this vicinity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp that on. I've got a special clamp to go there. Let's try and find that one. Oh dear. So this special genuine Webasto clamp, I think. Well, anyway, it's sort of like a Webasto kind of clamp. It's what they would use to fit this on. Now, has that got enough room? Yes, good, it has. Okay, so that clamp, just enough of it poking through to fit on there. Okay, so I'll fit that on there. I hope that's the right size. I might have a couple of other. This is a 26 to 28. It does look a little bit big. I've got some other ones of these actually, so I'll check the size of the others. But it just needs to sit like that and clamp that, and then here I can probably Jubilee clip that up here, or even put a bolt down with a kind of P-clip thing, metal P-clip, to hold the duct in place. That way as well, if I do need to fit the silencer, all I've got to do is probably just take the sump guard off and possibly just take the splash guard off and or pull out this inner wheel arch liner, and I can get up there. I haven't got to take the whole front end off then. I'm trying to do as many things as possible today that need the front end removed. I think I'm going to have to remove it again in the future anyway, because I'm just not totally sure about the wiring. Don't really want a load of kind of flying leads. Don't know. Let me get the exhaust done next, and then it is the wiring. Fuel, air, water, exhaust, and the only other thing that needs access to here is the wiring, and then everything else is up there. So yeah, just want to get the front end back on, get the car down off the ramps. It's starting to get dark already, so I don't really want the car on ramps for another night. Try and get it back together. Got to go out in it tomorrow morning. So yeah, right, get that exhaust pipe on, and then I'll think about the wiring. Okay, so that exhaust duct is now in. I've just clamped that on with a couple of stainless Jubilee clips under there, and that should come down directly over one of the holes. I think probably that hole there, but of course if I do fit the silencer then that'll all change, because I'll need to cut the duct and everything. But for now, that's on. That clampy thing I had didn't work. It just wouldn't clamp up tight enough. I don't know if that's just too big, but I've just put another Jubilee clip there, and that's all held really solid now. So that's a big relief that I found a way to do the exhaust, because that was always something that was bothering me. It was like, where do I run it? Where do I bring it out? Is it going to melt the plastic that's near it, etc.? So I think that's quite neatly done there, just underneath the front there, out of the way. Okay, so that's that done. It's getting a bit dark now, so I need to think about getting this front end back on. And yeah, the only other thing that I need to do is I need to drill a hole for that clip for the air duct, and I need to have a think about the electrical connections. I think what I'll do, because I can actually reach in from the back, I can put the front end on, and then when I come to do the electrics I can actually just remove this inner wheel arch panel and reach in. The connections are on the top, they're right here on the top of the Webasto. So I could probably actually, I'll tell you what, I don't even have to remove the wheel arch, I can just remove the headlight and get down here, no problem at all. So yeah, the sockets will need cleaning up, and I'll need to dig out all the various plugs that I've got. I've got some plugs with wires already on them from old Webastos, and the wiring that came off the breadboard, and I've also bought some new plugs. Okay, so I've got some brand new ones. I need to do something with this water pump wire, because this is a mess. This is just bare ends on this, which is no good at all. So rather than bullet connectors, I'll probably find a nice connector to put on there, a nice waterproof connector, and put that on there. Oh, Pit Lane Peanuts out here, he's going to be helping me. So yeah, getting there slowly. I think really the next thing really is to put the front end on, get the car down, and then I can start having a look. I would like to try and think about the fuel lines before I finish today. but that's a lot easier actually with the car down off the ramps, because this is very high at the moment. I just can't get down there. So once the car's lower, I can get my head down there and see what's going on. The fuel pump will need mounting somewhere. Again, I don't know where to put that at the moment. I need to remove the airbox and see if there's a suitable metal surface to attach that to. And then the little metal little temporary fuel tank, where is it? Here it is. Now this funny shape really, but it is kind of like the only one that fits. Now it's not very big. This is a temporary thing. This has probably got enough fuel in it here to run the Webasto probably 2 or 3 times if I'm lucky. I think the Webasto uses about half a litre an hour, so we'll have that's a 1 litre, I think. I'm not going to be running it for an hour, so I'll get a couple of heating circuits out of that tank full. But if that can fit down here somewhere, yeah, that will just fit. Probably better actually like that. Yeah, there we go. That's the sort of thing I want. Have that in like that. Yeah, it's not ideal. It's not ideal really. Even a tiny tank like that is a bit of a squeeze. I don't really want to put it over here. Oh, it's got these kind of ears on it with holes on, which, yeah, I suppose it could go somewhere like that. I can't really put it up here. I mean, one idea was that it goes kind of underneath the scuttle, and it might still be possible actually with a hole through the scuttle for the cap there, but that means it's a lot of work to then kind of try and accommodate that, because I've also got the control box is going to go up there, and I then cut that, and this is temporary. It's going to be plumbed into the main diesel line. I may end up just not doing this one at all actually. I'm just going straight for the proper fuel on the main fuel line. I guess it all depends if I can mount that securely like that somehow. I've also got the air filter, okay, which is here. There's the air filter. So that needs mounting somewhere. I'll have to cut this down. So that really needs to go there. Okay, yep, still lots to think about. So I've got the front end back on, put the headlights back in. Luckily, everything fitted, didn't sort of interfere with any of the ducting or pipe work or exhaust or anything like that. It all went on. It's always a bit nerve-wracking refitting that front, find that it fouls on something, but luckily it was fine. And then the exhaust pipe, you can see, is just there. You can't even really see it from the front, and it will just blast down through that hole, which is perfect. That's it for today, and that is hopefully it for taking the front end off. What I need to do tomorrow is look at the fuel situation, work out what I'm going to do with the fuel. Am I going to do a separate little tank, or am I going to connect in with the... So what I need to do tomorrow is have a look at the fuel situation. So I'm going to remove the airbox and just sort of work out where the fuel pump is going to go, and I'm also going to have a think about this sort of extra fuel tank. Am I going to use that, or am I going to just connect straight into the main fuel system? And then it is connecting up the coolant, which I'll probably do in a few days' time, and the final bit will be the electronics, okay, to actually get this thing to start up. That will be the last bit. So this is video number 6, and we're probably looking at another 3 videos, okay. So yeah, it'll be two or three more, so it'll go up to part 8 or part 9, and that'll be it then. I can press that button and see the car, well, feel the car getting nice and warm. I need to connect up the blower motors as well. Okay, so that'll be the final bit. So to start with, I can handle the engine and the coolant system just sort of getting hot, and then when I hop in, I'll put the blowers on and it'll already be warm and blow warm air straight away. But it would be really nice to actually have the blowers turn on when the Webasto sort of is heating up. There is actually a wire which goes to 12 volts at 40 degrees apparently. I couldn't get it working on this Webasto, so I might need to have a play with that and see what I can do. If I can't get that feature working, then I'll just run the blowers full blast when the Webasto's firing, when the water pump's running, when everything's heating up, and the blowers will just blow cold air to start with, but then they'll very rapidly start to blow warm air. The beauty of that is it means the interior of the car is going to be nice and toasty and warm. Okay, so the air inside the car will be warm, as well as the engine and the cooling system. Okay, so that will be the final bit, okay, because I can kind of just about live without that blower fan feature, but I do want to do that as well. I have got provision for that in my wiring diagram, and I will be fitting a sort of a changeover relay to flip those blowers to 12 volts, basically full power, to run them as things heat up, because of course the key won't be in the ignition. Okay, so the sort of the climate control system won't be on to then speed the blowers up gradually as things warm up, like it does when you're driving along. So yeah, getting there. But the good news is it's in. The plumbing is pretty much done, certainly in that vicinity. The exhaust is done, and really it's just connecting up the rest of it. In part 7, I will try to sort of get this running. Okay, so part 7 will probably be it'll be fuel and connecting into the plumbing, and then I'm going to look at the electronics in that as well. Okay, so my target is by the end of part 7 to actually press that button and get it running, and then part 8 will be looking at extra batteries and all that sort of thing, and part 9 finishing touches really. Okay, so that'll be the blower motors and that sort of thing. Right, that is it for today. That is it. Time to pack away and go in and warm up. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.